I actually completely agree with this. I am recording this after the trade deadline ended, but I personally didn't believe the Chargers should buy. I think they're a good team. I don't think they're a great team. It's only year one of Harbaugh. Obviously, the team's gotten better every single week. They're getting healthier, but there was no reason to go all in, right? It just wouldn't have made a lot of sense. But being 5-3, having, of course, that sixth AFC playoff seed of the seven feels very good. The next game is, of course, against the Tennessee Titans. And then after that, the schedule gets extremely difficult. It's the gauntlet of it with the Bengals, Ravens, Falcons, Chiefs, and Bucks. Even the Broncos, that's not going to be an easy game. And then at New England, at Las Vegas to end it, those are ones you just got to get. Be interesting to see how those games unfold. But the Chargers being 5-3, they set themselves up for a great opportunity to, of course, make the playoffs. And that's why right now they have a 77% chance to do that. NFL has them at number 12. They go up 3 spots, previously being at 15th. I agree with that. The offensive line, it was supposed to be one of the strengths of this team. We saw the first couple of weeks, but again, the schedule, Raiders and Panthers, and those two definitely increase that. Yeah, I mean, the interior hasn't been good all year. Zion Johnson might have been the worst Charger on the field of all of them in that win over the Browns. And Bradley Bozeman, Trey Pipkins the third. We've seen a little bit of Jamar Sawyer, but it just hasn't been that great. Of course, Herbert ended up getting sacked, what was it, 6 times? So that's going to have to be cleaned up. If the Chargers want to be a real threat in the AFC this year, they're going to have to protect their quarterback better. And it's not like it was just the pass protection, it was the run game as well. They finished with 4.2 yards per carry, but also you take away that 37-yard run by Dobbins. I mean, they're close to 2 yards per carry, right? So that's definitely one thing that we're going to be focusing on in the upcoming game, of course, against the Titans. ESPN has them at 13th, which is 4 better than last week when they were 17th. Most important game remaining, Week 12 versus the Ravens. This will be Coach Jim Harbaugh's first chance at revenge since losing to his brother. I mean, I guess, but I don't really think many Charger fans really care about that. I mean, all these games are important, man. If there were to be one game that I'd want to get this year, it actually would be Week 14 at Kansas City. To be honest with you guys, that's just me. I'm not speaking for every Chargers fan, but CBS has them at 10. How about that, man? Getting into the top 10, previously being 16th. They are really doing a lot of good things. The defense is special, and if you have noticed, it's time we do. Being top 10, I think is pretty realistic, just given the fact that the Chargers have the number 1 ranked scoring defense. Their secondary has been lights out this year. Their pass rush, which led by Khalil Mack, Tuipulotu is playing the best ball of his young career in his second season, of course. I didn't think Boza had a great game, but he's not close to being healthy, so that's kind of the thing. It's kind of to be expected. But yeah, for the Bolts, I mean, the biggest concern for them is going to be, can they beat good teams, right? Because their 3 losses, Pittsburgh, who's the 3 seed right now in the AFC, Kansas City, who's the 1 seed in the AFC, and then Arizona, who has won 3 games in a row and leads their division. At the same time, they did beat the Broncos, who are over 500. They've got the 7th playoff seed right now. And even the games they lost on a game-winning field goal, questionable calls. The Chiefs game, they were up 10. And then the Steelers game, they were tied going into the 4th. And injuries also aren't even accounting for what I said, right? So that played a huge role. So I get saying that the Chargers haven't beat the best teams, but at the same time, if they were fully healthy, there's no doubt in my mind that they win the first 2 games. And the Cardinals game was just kind of like, I don't even know how to describe it, man. It was just disappointing. They had the yardage. They just couldn't capitalize down on the red zone. Sports Illustrated has them at 11th, previously 13th. Tarheeb still is another name that we didn't know, and now we know. The Chargers secondary was heavily dependent on rookie 2024 5th-round draft picks and was the second-best defense in the NFL on Sunday against a Browns offense that the week prior towards the Ravens. That is the difference between what kind of players Harbaugh and Joe Hortiz, general manager, of course, were able to bring in that the previous regimen struggled to identify. That's a very good point. Discipline has been the biggest thing for the Chargers this year. Guys have stepped up. They played their role, and they played extraordinarily well. The secondary has been huge this season. The pass rush wasn't that great to start the year, but the secondary has kept it afloat. And now with the pass rush getting going, 6 sacks on Winston, I feel really good where the defense is at. And it's going into, again, the gauntlet of the schedule. So it's the best time. Bleacher Report has them at 13th, previously 15th. Kudos to head coach Jim Harbaugh for turning a once laughable Chargers defense into a powerhouse. I think we all expected Harbaugh to make strides in the defensive department, but last year's lack of efficiency and effort made this sort of jump feel unlikely. The Chargers have allowed only 101 points through 8 games. There's still room for improvement offensively, but things operate so much differently when wideouts Quentin Johnson and Lad McConkey are healthy. The team we saw on Sunday isn't capable of making the playoffs. It's capable of making the AFC's top contenders nervous. I completely agree, right? If you're the Chiefs, if you're the Ravens, if you're the Houston Texans, Pittsburgh Steelers, you don't want to see the Chargers in the playoffs. You absolutely don't, because they have really the firepower with Dobbins, McConkey, Johnston. I like Disley too. Herbert's huge arm, right? They have the firepower to be able to match you, but it's also defensively they have the firepower to stop you. So Chargers are going to be the most dangerous wild card team probably in the AFC. If the Bengals end up making it and improve their defense, they could be. The Ravens are going to be up there, but I just like the difference between the Ravens and the Chargers is the Ravens just don't have a good defense, man. They've got good players on it, but they can't stop the pass. The Chargers defense is just so elite right now. But we'll see, man. They do play the Ravens, they play the Bengals, they play some of these wild card teams, so we'll get to see who they really are. But yeah, that's going to be it for the power rankings. In terms of game balls over the Browns, pretty easy for me. J.K. Dobbins, Quentin Johnston, Tarheeb Still, Derwin James Sr., Tuli Tuipulotu, Justin Herbert absolutely deserves one as well. You can't really give out that many, but those were the biggest standouts. The biggest takeaways, Justin Herbert is on fire, playing the best ball of his career right now, for being honest. I mean, we're talking about his last 3 games, goes out there and against the Browns, 282 yards, Saints 279 yards, and then Cardinals 349 yards. Herbert's playing very, very well. Run game struggles, yeah. 2.8 yards per carry if you take away that 34-yard run for Dobbins. I said it'd be 2 yards per carry. I guess I got a little bit ahead of myself. It's 2.8, but still under 3 yards per carry outside of that big run. But also on the flip side of that glass half full, the Chargers hadn't had a big run by Dobbins since like week 2. So, I mean, it still counts at the end of the day. And 5 runs did go for losses, so that's not great. And Kamani Vidal, who a lot of Charger fans, including myself, want to see get going, well, 5 carries for 7 yards. So he was not able to get going in this one. But against the Titans, I expect that to get back on track. Lockdown defense, 3.8 yards per play for the Browns, 3.3 yards a carry for Nick Chubb. I mean, you take away the 49 yards Winston threw for on the final drive of the game, which was in garbage time, just 186 the entirety of it. Winston had 3 picks as well in the second half, trying to overcome a 20-3 halftime deficit. Quentin Johnston's return, absolutely 118 yards, 66-yard touchdown. But we're talking about, guys, the best game of his career. He already has more touchdowns this year than he did all of last year. So a lot of people were writing him off, but man, that was definitely not a good idea because he's cooking right now. And that's going to do it. That's all I got for you guys, man. Thunder Alley. Their offensive line has been a disappointment this season, but boy, the Chargers play competitive, tough, and smart football. A few plays really stood out for me in their deliberate dismantling of the Browns in Cleveland. The late block of a field goal try preventing the lead from shrinking to 2 scores was a sign of how much better coach the team is now under Jim Harbaugh and his staff. There also was some high football IQ on rookie Tarheeb Stills. Brilliant tip to Elijah Molden in the end zone. 1 of 3 picks of Jameis Winston. Even the series of laterals in the final play of the first half looked well executed despite ultimately failing. In spite of 2 misses from reliable kicker Cameron Dicker and the shaky pass protection, the Bolts secured an extremely clean road victory and took an important step forward as they sharpened their gaze on claiming a playoff berth down the back stretch.